For nearly 100 years, the Academy Awards have symbolized the greatest in film. It's the Super Bowl of cinema. And for the first time ever, we introduce to you the Cinephile Oscar Special. And now your hosts, Ben and Jake. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Cinephile. I hope you enjoyed that Oscars intro, because today, Jake and I are breaking down our picks for the 95th Annual Academy Awards. Jake, have you always watched the Academy Awards? What's your kind of relationship with them? I know we both want to go someday and be nominated.
That would be epic. That would be real epic. No, I've always loved the Oscars. I've really not been an award show person. Like, I could care less about the Grammys. I have very old taste in music, so usually I haven't heard of any of the songs for Grammys. But like the Emmys, like I usually don't watch those. Sometimes I watch the Golden Globe, but there's something about the Oscars that is just it seems so special, right? It seems like for an evening, for a few hours, we get to take a glimpse into the world of Hollywood and feel a part of that, right? We get to experience that. And I mean, really, it's just an extension from my love of movies, right? Every year when the Oscars nomination list comes out, I've always looked at it and been trying to see how many of those have I seen. But then, now as I've gotten older, I'm like, okay, how many of these do I need to go back and watch? Right.
Right.
Because it's one thing when, back in the day, like in, our grandparents and our parents' generations, like there were only so many films made every year.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so you were probably going to more than likely have seen two or three, maybe all of the Oscar movies that are nominated. But now there's just so much content being put out. Some of these I've never heard of them until, the Oscars nominations come out. But no, it's always been something I love. It's something I've always stayed up and watched. And it's just, it's fun.
Yeah, I know for me, I enjoyed every year. It depends on the host too. Some of the hosts, Hugh Jackman hosted the Oscars one year and did like an opening musical number, and it was epic. But Jimmy Kimmel hosts like every year now, and I don't really know how I feel about that, because I like Jimmy Kimmel, but yeah. Anyway, that's a side tangent.
While we're on,
want to get it.
Hang on. While we're on Jimmy Kimmel, we have to talk about one of my favorite parts of the Oscars. It's or I should say, of the Oscars coverage, and it's all the times they throw it out to Guillermo on the red carpet, and the man has like a jacket full of like little shooters of like tequila and whiskey that he gets people, to stars, as they arrive, to take a shot with him. That is a goal of mine someday, is to find Guillermo on the red carpet and take a shot with him.
You love Guillermo.
He cracks me up.
He's
man.
a legend.
He
man.
is so funny.
He really is. Guillermo's, and I like how sometimes he's high too.
Yeah.
And Jimmy's like, Guillermo, are you high? Oh no, Jimmy.
No.
Oh no. But no, Guillermo's great. But I always enjoy the Oscars host. It's a celebration of movies.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely been quite divisive in years past.
Mm-hmm.
But this year we have some really, really exciting picks. So let's just jump straight into it. Our first category is going to be Best Supporting Actress. The nominees for Best Supporting Actress are Angela Bassett for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, Hong Chow for The Whale, Carrie Condon for The Banshees and Inisherin, Jamie Lee Curtis for Everything Everywhere All at Once, and Stephanie Hsu for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Jake, who is your pick for Best Supporting Actress?
My pick for this category goes to Hong Chow. We went and saw The Whale together, and that movie is so fresh to me. Like I never felt like I'd seen anything like that before, and it's not an epic movie in terms of scale or grandeur. It's a well shot movie, but it's no razzle dazzle with the camera. There's not a lot of fancy effects and everything. But the story is very interesting, and the performances in that movie, really top down, are very solid. But I think Hong Chow just her performance was just incredible to me. It was you have so many feelings towards Brendan Fraser's character, right? You know, he's the severely obese man that is really, you can make the argument, you know, has spiraled out of control, and it's not really his fault, but really, you know, you can blame a lot of his hardships and his struggles on him. I think it's logical to make that conclusion, and I felt like this character was the perfect foil for everything I was feeling as the audience watching this movie, right? Her mix of frustration and anger and pity and empathy for this character, all wrapped up into one, and she's experiencing these throughout the movie. I felt like it matched beat for beat with what I was feeling towards this character. You know, there's a lot of other good performance in this. I really liked Harry Condon in Banshees of Inisherin. I thought she was really good. Stephanie Tsu, for Everything Everywhere All at Once, she's also very good. But for me, Hong Chau's performance in The Whale just stood out above the others. But Ben, who is your pick for Best Supporting Actress?
So this was tough as well for me, because you're right. There are a lot of great performances. And I also look at kind of doing my rating as who would I pick or who do I think that will win. But I've decided today that I'm just going to do who I would pick. I would pick Angela Bassett for Black Panther Wakanda Forever. And the reason why is that this movie, I'm a big Chadwick Boseman fan. I think he was a spectacular actor and a great person. And they had a tall task, um, having the second movie without its main star and the title character. And I think Angela Bassett's performance is very powerful. That's the word I would use. The scenes that she's in, I mean, there's literally a scene where she's talking about she lost her whole family because at that time they think that maybe one of the other characters in her family is dead or missing, and she's like, I have no one left, and I'm queen now, and I have to deal with that. And I thought that was just a very powerful performance. Like you said before, Hong Chow. I remember when we went and saw that, you were all on the Hong Chow train. You're like, wow, which you love The Whale.
It's such
Um,
a good movie. I was low key, not to get ahead of ourselves, but I was low key heated it didn't get a Best Picture
yeah,
nomination.
I know you were. I yeah, I think she was good in that. I also thought she was really good in The Menu, which obviously she wasn't nominated for. It actually got a couple of award nominations in different for like DGA kind of stuff. It really I enjoy that film, but my pick has to be Angela Bassett. And the nominees for Best Supporting Actor: Brendan Gleeson, The Banshees of Inisherin; Barry Keoghan, The Banshees of Inisherin; Brian Tyree Henry, Causeway; Judd Hirsch, The Fablemans; and Ke Huy Quan, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Jake, who is your pick for Best Supporting Actor?
So this is another really good field. I feel like we're going to say that about pretty much all the categories. Is this really good field? I felt like this was a really good year for movies. Banshees of Inisherin, you know, they have two nominees in this category. Brendan Gleeson, I love Brendan Gleeson just in general. And so I thought his was a very interesting performance in Banshees. And so is Barry Keoghan, which, if you don't know about his story, I encourage you to go look it up. It's a fascinating and really empowering story about kind of an underdog story. But speaking of underdogs, my pick for Best Supporting Actor is Ke Huy Quan for Everything Everywhere All at Once. This performance, you had hyped up this performance for like a month to me.
I
Um,
did. I
and
did.
for some reason, Everything Everywhere All at Once, I was dragging my feet about seeing it. I don't know why. I heard so many good things about it, but I just kept dragging my feet. And I finally watched it, and I was like, I get it. This performance is epic in every and any sense of the word. It is a masterful performance. And that add on to the fact that this man has not had a major performance in what, like 10, 15 years?
Oh, more than that,
This is
the
like
last thing I can think of is the Goonies.
which he's like a child in. I mean, and obviously
He's in the
we
80s.
we know him as Short Round from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And
What
he's
a king.
hilarious in that. But like to make not only to make your return to Hollywood, but make your return in such a triumphant way. Like this performance has everything in it. And if you've not seen Everything Everywhere All at Once, it's a crazy and wild movie. And he really ends up playing like two characters virtually. And he plays both of them so well. And so I cannot say enough about this performance. Ke Huy Quan all the way, and I will be very upset if he doesn't win. I might riot in the streets.
Well, one, I'd love to see you riot in the streets. You're just running around the streets singing like a Civil War anthem.
I do sing Civil War songs
I know
often.
you do.
So yeah, I'm waiting for the day I pick a fight late at night outside a bar with a neo Confederate because I'm singing Civil War songs.
Oh my, Jake. I have to agree though. My best supporting actor pick is also Ke Huy Quan. My guy is a king in
Yeah.
this movie. He's so good. I, you're right. I hyped up this performance, and Ke Huy Quan has mentioned before that he didn't feel like there was a place for him as an actor in Hollywood, and he went and saw Crazy Rich Asians, and he realized maybe there is a place for me. And he came back on the scene, and he did this movie, and he is just spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, yes, you mentioned before he's Short Round. Temple of Doom. I love Temple of Doom. That's the reason why we have PG-13 movies, by the way. I'm sure we'll talk about that at another time. But he's just so charismatic. He also kind of sounds the same.
Yeah.
You know, like there are people that when they grow up, they have their voice changes significantly. And Ke Huy Quan's got a little bit deeper, but it like sounds the same. Like if you were to say in this movie, "Hold on to your potatoes, Dr. Jones," I one would have lost. Could you imagine one of his
Oh my gosh.
characters was Short Round?
That would have been epic.
I'm still holding out a little, and they won't do this, but I'm still holding out a little hope that we get a Short Round cameo in Indiana Jones, in the Dial of Destiny.
I don't
I'm
know.
still kind of holding him.
They're still shooting, aren't they? Or
No,
they've
they
wrapped.
wrapped. They
Okay.
wrapped. Now, granted, it could be a pickup thing.
Yeah.
Now that he's kind of hit the ground running,
Yeah.
but
The
um,
hype around, could you imagine how much hype that would generate?
I
There's a
still
lot of
think
there's a lot of hype around that movie already, but like
imagine a Short Round Disney Plus show,
that
dude. And he
that would
already
be
has a
fun.
relationship with Disney because he's going to be in the second season of Loki.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I could not say enough great things
Mhm.
about Ke Huy Quan. And the thing is, he's won every award except the BAFTA.
Yeah.
That's the one he was nominated for, and he lost to Barry Keoghan.
Mhm.
Other than that, he's won every single one. I think he's going to win the Oscar. I think he deserves to win. And I would kind of agree with you that I would be very, very disappointed if he doesn't win
You'll
because
be
he is completely deserving of
you'll
that
be
award.
you'll be out riding in the streets with me.
Yes, I won't sing Civil War songs. I may sing Vietnam songs. I like Fleetwood Mac. So
Oh my.
Fleetwood Mac did Vietnam songs, right? I mean, obviously, there's not a song called Vietnam songs.
Um
What's
Probably.
this what's the song in Bad Moon Rising?
Yeah, CCR, Clean's Corolla
CCR.
Revival.
Clean it,
Like
yeah.
they're known for, I mean, Fortunate Son, like
I have
epic.
CCR on my phone.
CCR is epic.
I do.
Yeah.
I was born in the wrong decade, but we can talk about that another time too.
Yes. Speaking of music, time to move on to our next category, which is Best Original Score. The nominees for this category are Volker Bertelmann for All Quiet on the Western Front, Justin Hurwitz for Babylon, Carter Burwell for Banshees of Inisherin, Son Lux for Everything Everywhere All at Once, and the GOAT himself, John Williams, for The Fablemans. Ben, I got a hunch, but I'm still gonna ask you, what is your pick for best original score?
This is hard. And the reason it's hard is because what defines best original score? Is it what I like the most? Is it something that elevates the material? Or, I mean, look at E.T., right? E.T., the last 10 minutes of that movie, there's no dialogue, it's just score. I would say that elevates.
Mhm.
But there are a couple of films that I can't think of right off the top of my head, but there are films that they have music to have music, but it doesn't really elevate the performance. I I with all of my heart want John Williams the GOAT to win. I really like The Fablemans, actually a lot. I love that movie. But I really like his score in The Fablemans. I think it's understated, but I'm gonna have to go with All Quiet on the Western Front.
Really?
And the reason why is because when I watched that movie, that helped set the score, the stage. I think it elevates how war is portrayed in that movie.
Mhm.
And it's one of those where if you listen to it, it kind of at times you'll get that spine tingling, in your on the back of your back. And so as much as I want John Williams to win, and I am hoping that he wins, my pick's got to be All Quiet on the Western Front. Jake, what is your pick for best original score?
So this was maybe one of the hardest categories this year for me to pick. I struggled a lot with it. Um, it's funny that your pick was All Quiet in the Western Front because that was the first one I threw out.
Really?
Yes, I think it's. I think you're right. It matches the story very well. As far as like emotionally, I thought stylistically it there was a disconnect for me stylistically with the music as to what I was seeing on screen. This was a
Okay.
very like period epic piece, and I thought there was like
The music isn't necessarily that.
no, it's not.
Yeah.
And obviously, like it was a very intentional choice for me. It didn't work.
Okay.
But my pick is gonna be Mr. John Williams for the Fablemans. I didn't want to pick this, to be honest with you. I didn't because I was like, this is an emotional pick, just because I love John.
We,
Can we just pause for a second and say that we might be two of the biggest John Williams fans on the face of the earth, and
oh,
there are a lot of
hands
them.
down. And we've looked and we have tried to get tickets to go see him conduct, and they're so expensive.
They are.
I'm still hoping out maybe just a little bit that we go to the Hollywood Bowl.
One of us
But
wins the
that'll have to be,
lottery. That's the first. That's the first
yeah,
purchase.
like if for some reason, Mr. Williams, I know Steven Spielberg calls you Johnny, but I won't call you Johnny. Mr. John Williams, if you are watching this, one, we love you. Two, you're the GOAT. Three, all of your scores not only define the movies that they're in, but I think they define a generation of film fans and are paramount to pop culture today. I mean, you don't hear these things without. I mean, I know people whose ringtones are like
Star
Darth
Wars,
Vader,
Indiana
yeah,
Jones,
like Vader's March. I know people that I also know people that have the da 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 Kim Possible ringtone, but you didn't do that.
no.
But we are such big fans.
Yes.
And we've wanted to go forever, but we're both just fresh out of college and broke.
Broke.
Anyway,
back on track. So I didn't want to pick this because I listened to the score and I was like, this isn't what you expect from a John Williams score, right? You said it. It's very, very understated. I think listening to a lot of the music nominated for this category is rather understated. I'm thinking of Banshees of Inisherin, especially, which was another, it was right.
And that's a good score too.
It was a very good score. the pick was really between Banshees, John Williams for the Fablemans, and Everything Everywhere All at Once.
I thought about that one too.
I didn't pick that one because I felt like it used that one. I felt like it used like not just scoring, like film scoring, but it used like actual songs too. So it was kind of hard for me to separate what, looking at just the score, right? Not just all the music in the movie, because there's a difference in that movie. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
that for that reason, I didn't choose that one. But the more I thought about the Fablemans and the more I listened to this score, I listened to it coming home from work today because I was like, are you sure this is your pick? And just thinking
Am I
about,
going to be basic?
yes.
In
Yes,
my
I
pick?
am. I
Yes,
am basic, just like my Starbucks order.
let's ride.
But no, I think really this isn't your typical John Williams score. It's not even one of my favorites for him. But when you look at this movie and what it asks of the music, he delivers.
I agree.
He delivers. And what is this going to be like his like 30 something? Has he reached 40 Oscars yet?
He is the second most nominated person ever, behind one other producer. Who do you think that is?
It's who is it? Is it Hal Wallace?
No, it's Walt Disney.
Walt Disney. Ah,
You ever
yes.
heard of him?
Once or twice.
Yeah, he's the, if I'm not mistaken, he's the second most nominated behind
Okay.
Walt Disney. So, well, okay, when you're cranking out dubs after dubs after dubs,
Yeah.
king,
Yeah.
absolute king.
But no, for me, as much as I didn't want to, it has to go to the Fablemans. Our next category is Best Cinematography. The nominees are James Friend for All Quiet on the Western Front, Darius Kanji for Bardo, False Chronicle of a Handful of Truths, Mandy Walker for Elvis, Roger Deakins for Empire of Light, and Florian Hofmeister for Tar. Ben, what's your pick?
This category is interesting because I've only seen 3 of the 5. So I didn't see Empire of Light. Now Roger Deakins is spectacular. And so if I was using logic, I would say Roger Deakins. The 3 that I've seen, Elvis was a lot. Is very Baz Luhrmann. It was definitely very stylistic in its cinematography. Tar, I liked Tar. We'll get to Tar eventually, but I like the cinematography of Tar. But I'm gonna have to go with All Quiet on the Western Front. It's just like from the very beginning of that film, it's gorgeous, and that's one of the things I noticed was the cinematography right off the bat. So I'm gonna have to go with All Quiet on the Western Front and James Friend. But I also, I'm kind of mad they didn't. I'm kind of mad they didn't put Top Gun Maverick in here, and and there'll be a couple other categories. I'm kind of mad they didn't put Top Gun Maverick in, but what they did with the cinematography in Top Gun Maverick was insane. They had to develop a camera that would fit in the fighter jet, but they also shot it on IMAX. So they had to develop a small IMAX. I mean, it just was insane. I thought the cinematography in that movie was great too, but it's not nominated. So I'm gonna have to go with All Quiet on the Western Front. Jake, what is your pick for best cinematography?
So this might surprise you. I actually wouldn't have been upset if Top Gun Maverick would have been nominated in this category.
Because we had a whole conversation.
We've had
on
a
the
lot
phone.
of. We've had multiple arguments about this. I really like Top Gun Maverick. I don't think it's an Oscars movie.
We'll talk about that a little bit later.
We'll get to that. But I would have. I think what they were able to achieve for that movie, I think it was probably deserving of a nomination, just from the sheer innovation side of it.
Yeah.
But I am going to have to go with James Friend for All Quiet on the Western Front. That movie was just absolutely beautiful, and the way they were able to take and offset these horrors of war with this gorgeous image,
Hmm.
I think just is everything that story needed, right? It's obviously based on the book from, I believe it was from the 1920s, Eric Verman Remark. I actually had to read it my junior year in high school for an
Really?
English class. Yeah. Not my favorite book. It's definitely an important
How
book.
much of it did you spark notes?
Only like I really didn't. It's a short book, so
Okay.
I didn't have to. I had. I'll tell you, I had to spark notes to help me understand some things. Because it's written obviously in German, and so there was some things that didn't flow so well into English grammar. But obviously, like they have multiple English versions.
I
Um,
thought you were gonna say that it's based on a true story. I was like, yeah, obviously.
yes, it is based on a true story. Um,
You're
but
telling me
no,
that World War One is a true story?
it's actually a real thing. I know
No way.
denying facts about history is popular nowadays, um, but no, but no, just the whole message of that book and its gritty and realistic tone and message about war and how they were able to take that story and be true to that story and offset it with these grand, and I mean truly grand images, like the wide shots in that movie.
Insane.
Could print those as pieces of film, blow up. Like I want that as artwork on my wall. Like
Yeah.
it's just gorgeous, and like the way they use color, insane. I absolutely thought that was a gorgeous movie. um you mentioned that you'd only seen three of the five. I've seen four of the five. I didn't watch Bardo, but I did watch Empire of Light, and as much as I do like Roger Deakins, um I felt like the visuals were better um, in All Quiet on the Western Front. I'm confident in saying that. It's just it for me. Okay, for me, best cinematography is about effective storytelling visually and the grandeur of cinema.
Mm.
To me, that's what those two things are what this category is about. And I think I thought All Quiet on the Western Front succeeded in those two things better than anything else that I saw this year. Our next category is Best Adapted Screenplay. And the nominees are Edward Berger, Leslie Patterson, and Ian Stokell for All Quiet on the Western Front, Ryan Johnson for Glass Onion, Kazu Ishiguro for Living, Aaron Kruger, Eric Warren Singer, Christopher McQuarrie, Peter Craig, and Justin Marks for Top Gun Maverick, and Sarah Polley for Women Talking. Ben, what's your pick for Best Adapted Screenplay?
This is a hard category for me. I I know everyone's like, oh, Glass Onion, Glass Onion, Glass Onion. I enjoyed Glass Onion. I didn't think it was as good as Knives Out, which you and I went and saw.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I
Because
do. That was epic.
that was epic. You were like, holy crap. And Christopher Plummer's in it. I mean, he's a goat. Um, yes. I We're doing what I want to win, not what I think will win, right?
You
So,
make the rules.
oh. Sorry, it's so hard. I have one highlighted that I my this is like harder than picking a favorite child. Um, I have so many children that my pick for best adapted screenplay is Top Gun Maverick. One, it's so good. I love that movie. I know you didn't. Am I a simp for it? Yes. Uh, what I had highlighted was All Quiet on the Western Front because I know that's a really really well written.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's gonna win. But Top Gun Maverick is my favorite script out of all of these.
Okay.
Jake, what is your pick for best adapted screen?
My pick is Sarah Polley for Women Talking. Now, I've seen have I seen? I didn't see Living. Which you can't. If you've seen Living, like kudos to you because like I tried. I can't
Yeah,
find that.
you told me you can't find it.
It's
I didn't get to see it either.
it didn't come. I don't think it came to a wide release in U.S. theaters. If it got released in U.S. theaters at all, it's a British film, starring Bill Nighy, who's nominated for
He's nominated, yeah.
yeah, best lead actor. But it's not on any streaming service. And so I didn't get a chance to see that one, but I saw all the rest of them. I like Top Gun Maverick, but
Look, I don't think it's the best screenplay.
yeah, you just love that movie.
I'm like, crap. Do I change my answer?
Yeah,
This is one of those. This is one of those.
The reason I can't pick Top Gun Maverick for this category is because I enjoyed that story until they crashed. And then the whole like, yes, the ending of that movie is epic, but after they crashed, I was like, you lost me. Like you were doing so well with like emotional tension and like a well like crafted story that wasn't like riffing on the original, but we got to that last sequence and I'm like, you needed an epic ending without killing anyone. So this is what you did. And like, that's just when it lost me. But no, I picked Women Talking because I thought that movie, the movie is a little dry, but the dialogue is exceptional. It is a character driven movie, and the voiceover narration and the dialogue in that movie was far and above better than the rest. And I thought the fact that it did excel so much in the dialogue, and I think understood that okay, character development and dialogue is where this movie needs to shine because that's really all there is to this movie, right? And I think it's because of those successes. That's why it's my pick for best adapted screenplay.
Okay, final answer: Glass Onion.
Really, you're switching your answer to Glass Onion?
Remember what I said that I didn't like this? I know I never said I didn't like this script. Would so All Quiet on the Western Front is really well done. Do I think that'll win? Maybe. I haven't seen Women Talking. You're saying that it's really good. I trust you. Top Gun Maverick. I love Top Gun Maverick. Living, no one, that probably doesn't even exist. And Glass Onion and Knives Out. Yeah, it's dead. And Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery is very inventive. So, Glass Onion. Final answer. Phone a friend.
Glass Onion. One, I didn't like it as much as the original Knives Out.
And I agree with you.
I thought that was just all around like better performances, better story. Glass Onion was okay. And I think part of the reason it was okay, one, some of the performances I didn't think were as strong. Maybe I was just because I enjoyed the original so much. Maybe that's why I was expecting better performances. But two, I thought the story was a little wonky to me. To quote a line from that movie, "It's just dumb. It's so dumb, it's smart. No, it's just dumb."
I low-key love that line.
I do love that
That's
line.
That's such a memeable line, too.
But I think that line kind of describes the storyline of that movie
a little bit. So dumb. It's brilliant. No, it's just dumb. Anyway.
Oh, goodness. Moving on to the other screenplay category for Best Original Screenplay. And the nominees are Martin McDonagh for Banshees of Inisherin, Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert for Everything Everywhere All at Once, Steven Spielberg and Tony Kushner for The Fabelmans, Todd Field for Tar, and Ruben Östlund for Triangle of Sadness. Ben, what's your pick?
This one, I'm going to have to go with Everything Everywhere All at Once. And it's not because the other ones are bad. Mm-hmm. This is just balls to the wall bonkers. And I think it's done well. I think they made the multiverse make more sense than maybe even Doctor Strange did. And it's just so inventive that I have to go with Everything Everywhere All at Once. I really like the Fablemans. I like the script for the Fablemans. Um, but in Tar was wild.
Tar is wild.
That movie was freaking wild, dude. And we'll talk about that. Banshees, I think if one of them that isn't Everything Everywhere All at Once wins, it's gonna be Banshees. I liked Banshees a lot. So I think Banshees will probably win, but my favorite is Everything Everywhere All at Once. Jake, what is your pick?
So I want to start off by saying I thought that this screenplay category, best original screenplay, at, on the whole, was better than best adapted screenplay this year. I thought that, I mean, every one of these movies, I think I would pick over any of the previous 5 movies. I think that's how it shakes out this year at the Oscars. But my pick is a really tough one. I had it narrowed down again to the Fablemans, I had it narrowed down to the Fablemans, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and Banshees of Inisherin. And this one I'm going to give to Martin McDonagh for Banshees of Inisherin. This, I will admit, the more I think about it, the more I keep changing.
Yeah,
but I've
every answer I've had has been the same answer the whole time. So the fact that you change is unacceptable.
Okay, well, forgive me. But we're
gonna start the video right now. Everything else beforehand doesn't count.
No, but like,
welcome to the Oscar special. I'm so
oh my gosh. I think I changed my answer on this like 4 different times because really, it's almost I can't make a pick. The reason I ended up giving it to Banshees of Inisherin, is because I think, and I think this may be how some people, some Oscar voters are gonna vote. When you look at all these films, I think Banshees is a film that's, it's obviously nominated for multiple awards. And I think it's going to lose out on a lot of them, being very frank, just looking at awards trends. And really the BAFTAs is the only thing that made Banshees the big winner. And I think you can almost say that not a UK bias, because Banshees is, it's set in Ireland. It's an Irish film through and through.
Right.
I think
no fucking way.
Which actually isn't.
They say that,
and that's not a swear. FECK is different than FUCK in Ireland.
Well, I yeah.
But like they use that like so casually. Irish people use that like so casually, and it's not like a curse word.
Really?
Like
could have fooled me.
I've heard it explained as that to them is the difference between heck and hell to us.
Interesting.
A little
no frickin' heck.
some Irishmen probably going to slide in the comments and be like, you guys have no idea what you're talking about, which we really don't most
idiots.
of the time.
Fucking idiots.
I think that when it comes down to it, the Banshees of Inisherin is going to lose out in a lot of categories. And so I think, at least for me, when I was filling out my Oscar card for this podcast, I said, I felt in my heart that like Banshees has to win something.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
This is my something. This is what I chose. That this is my something. I agree with you that Everything Everywhere All at Once is so many things. It's a well-crafted story because it helps you understand what you need to understand and helps you brush off with what you need to brush off and not get bogged down into too many lore things.
Right.
But for the pure aspect of Banshees needed to win something, this was my pick.
And that's a real thing, by the way.
Yeah.
X movie needs to win something at the Oscars. Like with Oscar voters, that's a real thing, which is some of the reason why you have these upsets or these weird wins, because you're like, it's got to be nominated. It's such a good movie. It's got to be nominated for something. It's got to win at least one award.
Yeah.
For something.
Mm-hmm.
And so no, I completely understand where you're coming from on that one.
Our next category, Best Director. The nominees are Martin McDonagh for Banshees of Inisherin, Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert for Everything Everywhere All at Once, Steven Spielberg for The Fabelmans, Todd Field for Tar, and Ruben Östlund for Triangle of Sadness. So, fun fact, this is almost an exact copy of the previous category. The only thing that's different is Steven Spielberg has a co-writer for The Fabelmans, and he's the only one nominated for Best Director on The Fabelmans. So, everyone else is the same for Best Original Screenplay, which I found interesting. But
that's
Ben,
fascinating.
Yes, I think it really kind of makes a statement on auteurs and like telling telling not only like telling your own story, but telling a story that perhaps the best. And I think
no, yeah, you're absolutely right.
I think every one of these people is a director first, but they understand what they need out of a screenplay so well that they're able to take their own ideas and translate them on the page. But enough of that sidebar. Ben, what is your pick for Best Director?
So the best director on this list is Steven Spielberg, hands down. He's the GOAT. But my pick for Best Director is the Daniels, Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert. I'm also cheating a little bit because I know what the DGA picked as the best director, and it is very rare that the best director picked at the DGA isn't the best director, because the DGA, a lot of them vote in the Oscars. Now, I think one notable exception is Ben Affleck won Best Director at the DGA and wasn't even nominated for Argo in 2013, which, don't get me started on that because it's so good. But I think what they did and the amount of things they had to deal with and handle, it was a lot to juggle. And I think they did it best. I would probably even, and like I said, Steven Spielberg is the GOAT, but my second would probably be Martin McDonagh. I mean, he's that good. Yeah. And I think the amount of awards nominated actors and actresses says something about that. But Jake, what is your pick for Best Director?
So my pick is also the Daniels for Everything Everywhere All at Once. I echo everything you said. It was an incredibly complex story that they crafted, and I think they executed it incredibly well. I mean, it's nearly a flawless movie, and that's saying a lot. But it's such a well-told movie, and it feels fresh and original, and it feels very heartfelt, right? For a lot of this movie, I watched it and I was just like, for the first part, I was like, oh, maybe this is about nothing. But it ended up having a really touching message at the end. There's a lot of character growth, and it really warmed my heart. I will fully admit this. I cry at a lot of movies, but I cried at the end of this movie. Flat out.
Yeah, I know.
But
I'm laughing because I'm stone cold. The only
Austin.
The only movies I've cried at were Toy Story 3 and Toy Story 4, Endgame because it deserved it, and When Harry Met Sally because life isn't fair. I literally with Toy Story 3, I was watching that movie, and at the end of the movie, I thought, is this what my toys think of me?
Aw.
I know. And so I went on this rampage of playing with all my toys after that movie. That came out in 2009, so I would have been 11. And some of the toys I was like, I don't really play with anymore. But if this is how depressed they're going to be, I got to play with them. And Toy Story 4.
Toy Story 3 really came out in 2009?
Yes, it did.
Really?
It came out in 2009, and they almost 10 years later brought Toy Story 4, and then Toy Story 5 will be released
Yeah.
You know, it will probably be 2025 or 2026, and the first Toy Story was released in 1995.
Wow.
So it'd be 30 years this franchise. But we're not talking about
No, no,
that.
no. We're talking about the Oscars. And I do think that you mentioned the DGA being a good indicator. You're exactly right. I think I saw a statistic: 67 of the last 75 best directors also won at the DGA. So I think the Daniels have a very strong chance of winning.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Moving on, our next category is Best Actor. And the nominees for Best Actor in a lead role are Austin Butler for Elvis, Colin Farrell for The Banshees of Inisherin, Brendan Fraser for The Whale, Paul Mescal for Aftersun, and Bill Nighy for Living. Jake, what is your pick for Best Lead Actor?
So as we've already said, I didn't see Living, so I can't speak to Bill Nighy's performance. Maybe this is the greatest performance ever, and we're just missing out. Um, but this is there are three of the four left. There are three really good performances, and one I didn't understand. I didn't understand After Sun. I should say I got the concept, and I just didn't see what was so spectacular about Paul Mescal's performance. And that, I mean, it's good, but it didn't jump out at me. Um, but I thought Austin Butler did a very good job as Elvis. Colin Farrell did a very good job in Banshees of Inisherin. But um, as you've let on that I love the whale so much, and I do, my pick is Brendan Fraser for the whale. This is just such. There are so many things I went through watching this movie, emotionally, mentally. Like, it's just very, very thought provoking, I think.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just it's the assembly of those characters and like how they all intersect and all play off of Brendan Fraser are very interesting, and I think is what makes that movie. But they all have to have something incredibly solid to play off of, and that is Brendan Fraser's performance. Um, he puts me through such a range of emotions and reactions. I did cry at the end of this movie too. You could attest to that. I was sniffling beside you
Yes,
as
you
we
were. I was
as we
like,
as we silently watched the credits
mm-hmm.
with the like seven other people in the theater. Um,
And then we went and ate food.
yeah,
And I remember telling you, I don't think I'm hungry anymore, but I haven't eaten all day. So we have to
yeah.
eat something. So we wouldn't have pizza.
We had pizza and beer. Um, but this was I think an incredible performance and a triumphant return for Brendan Fraser. You know, someone who had been kind of blacklisted. I don't know, maybe wasn't blacklisted. It depends on that. That's a whole
That's a whole,
developing
yeah.
story, and like, uh, let's just let me put it this way. I am glad he's back. I think he deserves to be back, and he deserves every bit of recognition that he's received for this triumphant return. And I think that all that aside, I think even just on the performance merit alone, he deserves this Oscar. It's that good of a performance to me. So, but Ben, what's your pick?
I'm going to agree with you. I think Brendan Fraser for The Whale, I think he's spectacular. I was incredibly impressed with the range
Mm-hmm.
that he plays in that movie. The three that I think have the best shot are Austin Butler, Colin Farrell, and Brendan Fraser. So I'm going to tell you why each one of them will win. Austin Butler will win because if he wins, he will win because he's playing a character that people know really well. Look at something like Freddie Mercury, right? You had Mr. Robot,
Yeah, what's his face? Rami Malek.
Rami Malek. You had Rami Malek win because he had such a commanding performance. And I think Austin Butler has a very commanding performance.
It's very good.
And it is very good. And because it's a somebody that the audience knows, we know who Elvis is. We know we've seen him in movies. We've seen, the 68 special, or we've heard his music, or we've seen his all of his merch. Um, I think that's why he will win if he does win. I think Colin Farrell will win because based on his body of work, we talked before about sometimes it's, not necessarily the performance as much as some outliers of like they deserve to have an Oscar. Um, so I think Colin Farrell was good in that movie. Um, but I don't. Some people are saying he's going to win. I don't think he deserves to win as much as Brendan Fraser for The Whale. Like I said, his performance was so transformative. It was a wide range of emotions. I think it stretched him as an actor most, and that is something significant in my opinion, and that's why I think he should be best lead actor. And the nominees for best lead actress are Kate Blanchett for Tar, Ana de Armas for Blonde, Andrea Riseborough for To Leslie, Michelle Williams for The Fablemans, and Michelle Yeoh for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Jake, what is your pick for best lead actress?
This, I think, might be one of the most interesting categories this year at the Oscars. Um, because you have Andrea Riseborough, who really did like a online social media like PR push to get
It seems
nominated.
illegal. It's not illegal in the statutes for the Academy, but it's really
It's like it's
sketch.
one of those unwritten rules that like you can't like the Oscars don't the Oscars frown upon people who um proselytize trying to get
Yeah.
win an award. They don't like self promotion or people really just grandstanding for anyone, not even just that person alone, but people like um promoting someone saying that they deserve a performance. I didn't see To Leslie, so I can't comment on whether it's a deserving performance or not.
I've heard it's really good,
Yeah,
but I think there's honestly no shot in hell that she actually wins
yeah,
because of the way in which she was nominated. But
yeah.
please continue.
And then Ana de Armas for Blonde. Um, I mentioned this in the Some Like It Hot episode, but there are just so many uh, issues with that movie, um, around the creation of it and the fact that like Marilyn Monroe is someone that her legacy and her story has never been her own to tell. It was never her own to tell when she was alive, and her tragically her dying so soon has never gotten the chance to tell it. Um, has never gotten the chance to control her own legacy. And who we know as Marilyn Monroe and who um, Norma Jean, her real name, who that she was as a person, are seem to be two very different people. We know that now, and the fact that everything I've read about this movie, it seems to throw all that out and sensationalize the Marilyn Monroe persona that we all think we know. Um, it really just plays into that. I had real issues with that, and I feel like it's very dishonest to her legacy. So I didn't see that. And then Michelle Williams is good in The Fablemans. It took me a while to come around and realize that that's a good performance she gave in The Fablemans, because that character I didn't really care for at all. Um,
Yeah.
and so that I had a lot of issues with. Um, Tar, like you said, is a trip. It's a very
It's a wild
commanding.
ride.
It's a very commanding performance by Kate Blanchett, and like I can see why she's nominated, because like it's a very
She
commanding
carries that
performance.
movie.
Yeah, she has
Like
to.
there's like she has to.
That movie doesn't succeed without a stellar performance by her. And Todd Field wrote this movie for her,
Yes.
specifically Kate Blanchett. But my pick is going to go to Michelle Yeoh for Everything Everywhere All at Once. She is masterful in that movie. I enjoyed that movie so much. I can't say it enough. And I think that movie, the emotional progression that her character goes through, and the resolution of that movie just was so warm and genuine and heartfelt that I think that's what put her performance above. So Ben, what's your pick for best lead actress?
I'm gonna have to agree with you. I think I think the two, Andrea Riseborough, like I said, no chance in hell. Ana de Armas, I turned that movie off after 20 minutes. I couldn't stand it. I thought the performance was. I mean, look, was it a good? I mean, it wasn't bad, but it just wasn't special.
Yeah.
Michelle Williams, I actually think her performance was really, really good. Um, and I like low-key have some personal reasons why I think that is the case because I've seen Crazy. Um, Kate Blanchett, if Michelle Yeoh doesn't win, it'll be Kate Blanchett.
Mm.
I think even though yes, it is something that commands the screen, the performance commands the screen. It's the reason, Tar is the last name of the main character, but I think what Michelle Yeoh has done and stretching her as well, she's so good in this movie. And also, if I'm being frank, I don't know if she'll ever get nominated again.
Yeah.
So, and Kate Blanchett's already won.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's Michelle Yeoh's time, to be honest with you, and it'd be well deserved.
Yeah, and I think I'm just going to come out and say this is Everything Everywhere All at Once is a better movie than Tar. And
Oh
so
yeah.
I think,
Oh yeah.
I think that even just from that aspect, like you have two very commanding performances, but Michelle Yeoh's got the better movie, I think. So
I agree. And now what you've all been waiting for, the nominees for Best Picture for the 95th Academy Awards. We're going to go through these and we're going to talk about each one and then give our picks. So the nominees for Best Picture are All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar, The Way of Water, The Banshees of Inisherin, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fabelmans, Tar, Top Gun Maverick, Triangle of Sadness, and Woman Talking. All Quiet on the Western Front. Jake, did you like this movie? Did you not? Quick thoughts.
I liked it. I think it's notable for being on this list because it is a German film. The Oscars have always kind of heavily favored American films, which obviously this heavily favors American films, but we're seeing inclusion of more foreign films, and I think this is an exceptionally done film. It's a wonderful adaptation on a very famous book. I think, like we talked about earlier, it's the most beautiful movie visually. Out of all the movies I saw this year, it's wonderfully shot. I think the performances are solid in this. The score for me was a little lacking. I didn't like the style choices, but overall a solid movie.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's beautifully shot. The depiction of war in this movie is very powerful. I know that my buddy Adam, he loves this movie a little too much. It's a little weird. I'm like, why do you love war so much? No, he like if you were to go onto his Netflix, all of the movies are war movies. All the suggestions. I'm like, dude, come on. I mean, I know like having a thing is great, but some diversity. So I think the depiction is really well, but the thing that stands out to me is the cinematography. It is shot so well, and I think the score is really. I know you think it's lacking. I really liked it. So those are my thoughts on All Quiet on the Western Front. Avatar: The Way of Water. Jake, did you see this and did you like it?
I didn't see this. I had tickets to see it twice, and I couldn't go see it because of one, my car wouldn't start after work, and then two, getting my car fixed for why it wouldn't start took 3 hours, and so I had to get refunded on 2 tickets because
Dang.
apparently I just wasn't meant to see this. I am gonna go see this, but I just couldn't get it in before we shot
Yeah,
this.
and I think it's still showing.
It is. I'm gonna go see it. I promise you, I will.
Okay, yeah, and you're gonna let me know because I've seen it 3 times.
Really?
Yes. I think this movie is incredible. Really well done. The performances, the motion capture visuals, it's a lock. It's gonna win. There's for best visual effects. I think the story is better than the first Avatar.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little long, but it's so cinematic. It's so cinematic. You have to see it in a cinema, and you have to see it in 3D.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not traditional 3D. It's what my buddy Daniel would call it 2D stereoscopic. So it just adds depth of field to it. I went and saw it with him, and I saw it by myself in IMAX. Then I saw it uh, with him in IMAX, and then I saw it with him in Dolby. We saw it twice. Um, and the Dolby experience was the best one. But I think it is a spectacular film. I really enjoyed it. Well deserved for its nomination. The Banshees of Inisherin. Jake, what are your thoughts?
I I first didn't like this movie, but the more I thought about it, the more I think I got it. It's a dark comedy dramedy. Um, I think it's chock full of great performances. It's a solidly crafted story. I just think it's gonna be the big loser this year at the Oscar because it's pitted up against some real heavy hitters, and I think it's very very good, but there are things that are just better.
Yeah, I agree. I really like this movie. I saw it and I thought it was funny. I think the
Mhm.
premise is low key legendary. That he's like, I don't want to be your friend anymore, and if you come and talk to me, I will cut off my fingers.
Yeah.
That is,
The only thing I didn't
it
like about that was the cutting off the fingers part. Like that just made me squeamish.
was so that was fried.
Yeah.
It really was a really good movie. I agree with you. I don't think it'll win, but I thoroughly enjoyed. It's a performance based and driven movie,
Mhm.
and I think all the performances are really well done. Elvis, did you like Elvis?
So Ben knows this, but I really can't stand Baz Luhrmann, the director who made
I
that.
can't either.
He has such heavily stylized um his movies are so heavily stylized that it almost makes me nauseous. I think it works sometimes, like his adaptation of The Great Gatsby. I think his glamour and opulence, um, it fits the story, and I think it fits here too, taking on such an iconic. I mean, Elvis's nickname is literally the King, um, and so and he had rhinestone capes and outfits and jumpsuits and wore makeup and had fancy hair and like big production, and so like the style is warranted in some ways, but I just felt like it was too much here. Um, it's really a lot of the things are shot like it's a music video, and I think if we would have just reserved that for the concert performances, those scenes in this movie, I think that would have been much more effective, but I think it bleeds over too much into the other parts of the story, and it's a distraction for me.
I agree with you on the Baz Luhrmann thing. I didn't even like The Great Gatsby. I went and saw it, and something always just made me not want to watch it again. And then I realized, kind of studying film more, I was like, I just don't like Baz Luhrmann.
Yeah.
Kind
Romeo
of
and
like I,
Juliet. Ugh.
yeah, it makes sense that he's the director here.
Yeah.
You're right. It's shot, especially the first act of the movie is shot and edited like a music video. That's kind of annoying. The color timing is a little weird at points.
Mhm.
But it is very over the top, which I actually think works for Elvis. Not my favorite Tom Hanks performance, partially
Mm-mm.
because I would have gotten rid of the accent.
Yeah.
Honestly, if and I think that would have made it better. Um, but and Austin Butler was so good as Elvis.
Very good.
It frustrated me that it didn't show the end as much. When I see a movie, it's either got to be like I want to see the full story or just one specific portion, but this is like most of it, but not all of it.
Yeah.
And I think Elvis's entire story is fascinating. So I wanted to see all of that,
Mhm.
which I didn't. But this movie, I've seen it a couple of times now. It's quite enjoyable, and it makes sense that it's on this list. Everything, everywhere, all at once. Now I know you just watched this. I just rewatched this. What are your thoughts?
Incredible. That's all that needs to be said, is incredible. I mean, from
Yeah,
top to bottom, this movie is just spectacular.
it is. I think it does, and I said this before, multiverse better than
Mhm.
Multiverse of Madness. Ke Huy Quan is an absolute legend in this movie. He's so good. I think the premise, it can be a little much at times, but there's just something like I rewatched it and I remember enjoying it, but then I rewatched it again. I'm like, this is spectacular. It's
Yeah.
spectacular. And so I completely agree with you.
My only criticism, I think the first act is a little too long.
I can see that.
Or maybe it's not the first act, it might be the second act technically. There's one too many fight sequences in there.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Because I felt like I got to the point, I said this earlier, where I was like, oh, this is about nothing, and then I realized what it was really about. And so I think if it would have moved a little quicker and not
Yeah.
I mean, yes, the fight scenes are funny slash iconic slash epic. But I think it
Just like me.
It hit it a little too over the head.
Yeah. No, I echo everything that you said. I think the way in which they handled the story was really interesting. The dialogue was quick. The edit was fantastic. So I enjoyed all of that. The Fablemans. I know you saw this a while after I had seen this. I had seen this and I had hyped it up to you.
Yeah. I saw this on a Tuesday afternoon at like 12:30 with two other people in the theater, which honestly is kind of how it's almost like my preferred.
Yeah, I like it like that. Either that or completely packed.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's just like, I don't know, it's just like, it feels like, oh, they're doing all this just for me. And I'm sitting there with my little thing of popcorn and my lemonade and just enjoying myself. But no, I really enjoy this movie. I think this isn't a typical Steven Spielberg movie, and I think that's where maybe some hesitation is with it, because it is not cinema on a grand scale that the Spielberg is known for, but it is an incredible story. It's his story.
Right. It's
the,
slightly fictionalized,
yes,
but yes.
The ending is my favorite Steven Spielberg story of all time. It's like I literally like jumped up and cheered a little bit and pissed off the one other guy in the theater at the end.
And I told you that you would really like the end.
But I felt like this was just so heartfelt. Like this is a movie you can feel Steven Spielberg's heart and soul that he put into this. And it made me fall in love with movies again.
And I'm going to say the same thing. I think it does a great job of explaining why I love movies. I honestly think the kid that plays is it Freddy? It's the Sammy.
Yeah.
Sammy Fableman. The kid who plays Sammy is really good as his character. As
if he would have been nominated, if he would have been nominated for Best Actor, it would have given me cause for a second thought.
I think it's just a stacked a stacked category. But yes, this movie I thoroughly enjoyed.
I really enjoyed Seth Rogen.
I did too. I really, his performance was different than usual because he's more, like a funny guy.
Drugs, boobs.
And I think Michelle Williams is really good in it. Paul Dano is really good in it. It could win. And I would be completely okay with that. I still need to get it on physical media. It came out on my birthday, actually. But I am a big fan of The Fablemans. Tar, you saw this, and then I saw it like the day after you did.
Yeah, I went and saw this in theaters, and it's not a story I enjoy. I appreciate this as a movie on its artistic scale. I don't. It's a story completely just about power, and being afraid of losing power. And I think it tells it well. It's understated. I think it doesn't always flow to me. It doesn't always flow sequentially. I think it makes jumps that can confuse you. I think it intentionally makes jumps that are supposed to confuse you for a little bit as the audience, and then give you the satisfaction when it's revealed what that jump means for the character. But
even some of those jumps I felt like aren't. There's a scene in the movie where she gets beaten up and we don't see it.
Yeah.
And I had guessed that it was the character she was going to try and find, but also then the character had asked, how did you get beaten up?
Yeah, it's a movie that like I did I understood it more once I read about it after watching it. You know what I
Uh,
mean?
yes, and I kind of read a little bit about it, and I understand. I just that particular thing,
You were
I thought,
texting me after you saw it, and I felt like I was like you had a lot of the same questions I did
yeah.
coming out of it.
At first, I low key thought this was a real person, um, just for a smidge,
Yeah.
just for a second. I will say I enjoyed looking at orchestra through that lens. I actually think it makes John Williams more of a goat. This movie does, because it's like explaining how you conduct. You don't just,
Yeah.
yeah, you can write a score, but the way in which you conduct, and that to me kind of opened my eyes because I didn't play
Hmm.
in the orchestra. You did. I
I
know
did.
Daniel did. I
Yeah.
talked to him about it. I said he probably would really enjoy at least the first 2/3 of this movie.
Yeah.
He actually probably liked the whole thing. It's also, it's long. It's 2.5 hours.
Hmm.
Um,
And it feels every minute of that, I would say.
I agree. I agree. So I mean, I maybe this is a dark horse to win potentially, but I don't see it doing that. Top Gun Maverick. You saw this
I
movie.
I did. I saw it
Oh,
in theaters. I enjoy it. It is a good, wholesome movie. Um, if you enjoyed the original Top Gun, you will enjoy every minute of this.
this is so much better than the original Top Gun.
It understands its assignment and lives up to it, but I think that its assignment was not. No part of its assignment was to win an Oscar, and it's not. It isn't. I know what you're gonna say. You're gonna be like, but the revolution, the way they not revolutionize, but like the way they like advanced filmmaking with what they're able to do when they shot it, and like yes, that is incredible. I think I don't I we didn't talk about production design, but I think it would be deserving of production design
I agree.
Oscar. I think it would have been in the running for best cinematography. I would have nominated it for that. Um, but as an overall story, it's not there for me.
So I really like this movie. I own it. I've seen it 5 times. Um, I've seen it multiple times in theaters, and on the big screen, it's just awesome. It's just it. This movie kicks so much ass.
I have a cousin that I think she's seen it 10 times.
Really.
She's obsessed. Like her Facebook is, I swear, like every month, like or like every other week, she's watching it again.
And the reason why I think it's nominated is maybe the answer to this question. Does she do that about any other movies?
No.
There you go. This movie brought middle America back to the cinema for the first time since the pandemic. It's $1.4 billion on a property that's 36 years old. That the movie, it's kind of a cult classic in a way. I mean, it's not the best movie of all time. Um, it's known in pop culture, but not really well known. But the sheer fact that it made that much money, that it was able to bring a wider base of people back to the cinemas, and in many ways, I think Steven Spielberg said this, that Tom Cruise saved the movie going experience in a way. Because everybody was going on streaming, putting a bunch of movies on streaming, and Tom Cruise said, "No,
Mhm.
we are putting it out in theaters, and we're going to wait." That movie was shot in 2017,
Yeah.
and it came out this past year. So I think for those reasons, that's why it's nominated. Kind of like Avatar: The Way of Water. Yeah, it's a great story, but I think it's also nominated for its achievement.
Yeah.
This movie, the way it's shot, um, I mean, look, is it the best movie of all time? No. But for people that don't see a lot of movies, this movie brought them back to the theater.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the reasons why it's deserving of a nomination. Do I think it'll win? No. Do I want it to win? That would kind of be awesome. Triangle of Sadness. You saw this and
Yeah.
texted me, do not see it.
Yes. I saw this. It's set up with so much, I think, promise in the beginning, that it just does not follow through on.
Yeah.
It takes such the I enjoy the first act. The second act, I can see where it's going, and then it just takes a complete left turn and devolves into Lord of the Flies. And I hate
Is
Lord of
it
the
a
Flies.
comedy? Isn't Woody Harrelson
It's
in it?
yeah, it's supposed to be a dark comedy by Swedish director Ruben Östlund. Um, it was actually shot in like 3 different sequences in between lockdowns.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
like it was reading about it, it was a really difficult production, but like the ending just like ruins it for me. Like it had so much. I felt like it had a good amount of promise, and then just threw it all away. Maybe I don't
I
get
will.
it. Maybe I just don't get it. But
I will say. Actually, I had one more thing about Top Gun that I just thought of. If there was a best producer that isn't best picture, I think Top Gun Maverick should have taken it. I think that movie was extremely well produced.
I would agree.
Um, but yeah, I didn't see Triangle of Sadness. It was one that people have mentioned before, but you told me not to see it. You're like, this isn't worth. It's not going to win. Not
It's
worth
just
it. So,
strange.
and with a name like Triangle of Sadness, which I called Daniel last night. I was talking to him about some of these best picture things. He literally told me, he goes, "Sounds like my life." The Triangle of
Oh
Sadness.
God.
And the way he delivered that line was so funny. And we love Daniel,
We
and,
love
Jake
Daniel.
knows Daniel, and Daniel's my roommate in college for 5 of the 6 years. So yeah, Triangle of Sadness is his life. The last one is Woman Talking. I did not see this. I know you have.
Yeah.
Um,
It's very character driven. Um, it's got some very solid performances in there. It's I think smartly written, but it's just it's done on a small scale, and I don't mean to slight this because it's a very interesting story, but there's not any cinematic grandeur to it, right? This is almost something that I think would succeed maybe perhaps a little better as a stage play, and it's an adapted screenplay, so it might have been from a stage play. Fully honest, I don't know enough about it.
I I bet it. I bet
Probably
it
is.
is.
Yeah. And it doesn't follow through on the grandeur of cinema for me.
If there is, and I'm putting you on the spot with this, if there's one movie that isn't on this list that you, is there like one movie that isn't on this list that you think could have been nominated?
The Whale.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be
I,
honest, like it's just I think on the performances alone, that movie I think could have earned a nomination. Will it should it have won? No.
the one I would pick, the Batman.
Interesting.
I don't think you saw it.
I haven't seen it.
It's it's like a noir.
Yeah.
It's I think it's really well done. It's really gritty,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a really well done story, and I think it's probably the best comic book movie of the year. I could see it getting in
Yeah.
there, but that's our picks. These are our picks for the 95th annual Oscar Awards.
We didn't
What were
say who
your picks?
we didn't say who was winning Best Picture.
Who's winning Best Picture?
My pick for Best Picture is Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think it's the best movie.
I agree. I
It's the
have
best
the
movie I
three.
saw this. Is the
The,
best movie I saw this year.
the three, yeah. For me, the three that I have highlighted as the top three are Banshees, Everywhere, All at Once, and The Fablemans. I think Everywhere, All at Once takes it. I think it's just a spectacular film. If it doesn't, I wouldn't be surprised with Fablemans or Banshees.
Yeah.
I do not think Avatar could do it. I think All Quiet on the Western Front will win Best Foreign Film.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Elvis is that good. Top Gun Maverick, even though it is legendary, won't do it. Triangle of Sadness. If you told me not to watch it, it's not good enough. Women Talking, it's probably too small scale. And Tar is the dark horse.
Yeah. I agree with those picks 100%.
Yes.
So
So that has been all of our picks. Those were all of our picks for some of the top categories of the 95th Annual Academy Awards. This was shot a couple weeks beforehand, so we don't even know what the SAG Awards nominations and wins are. But what do you think of our picks. Do you agree with them? Do you disagree with them? Leave your picks in the comments down below. We would love to hear those and love to communicate with you. We've really been grateful for all of the support that you guys have been sending our way on some of the reviews and the podcast and the amount of views. It's really, really cool. And we're really, really grateful for that. But if you like this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell to get all the notifications on upcoming content. Jake and I have plenty of things brought in the next couple of weeks that we're doing, including Wick Weeks. For the next 2 weeks, we're doing Wick Weeks for John Wick Chapter 2 and John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum. But Jake, any closing thoughts? Anything you want to tell the people at home?
I mean, just thank you all for watching so much. We enjoy doing this so much. It's fun to do this every week, talk about movies, and it's especially fun this week to talk about the Oscars. Make sure you follow us, both Ben and myself, and the Cinephile on social media. You'll especially want to this week because on Sunday when the Oscars premieres, I always live tweet my reactions to the Oscars, whether people find that interesting or not. I always live tweet, and I know some people enjoy that. So make sure you follow.
We may be together.
We might be.
We might be.
To be determined. But make sure you follow us along for that and for all other updates that we have coming on our social media. And just like I said, thanks for indulging us for 45 minutes every week to talk about movies.
Absolutely, absolutely. For Jake Biller, I'm Ben Sparrow. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. And cut.